Hi, and welcome to this edition of Fresh Hope for Mental Health. Our mission here at Fresh Hope for Mental Health is to empower you to live well in spite of your mental health challenge by sharing insights through interviews, practical tools for living well, encouragement, and courage for overcoming all from a Christian perspective. And now, here's your host, Pastor Brad Hoefs.
Hello, my friend, and welcome to this edition of Fresh Hope for Mental Health. I'm Brad Hoefs, your host. Our purpose here on Fresh Hope for Mental Health is to empower you to live a faith-filled and rich, full life in spite of having a mental health diagnosis. So I've got another one of those short but sweet podcasts that I wanted to do today, and I want to talk to you about 5 things you need to quit doing. 5 things you need to quit. Number 1, quit trying to please everybody. Jesus himself could not please everybody. Why do you believe you can please everybody? Do you expect to be pleased all the time by one person? You know, it's interesting. For the longest time, I was a people pleaser. I wanted to please everybody, and I never assumed that anybody was going to please me 100%. So why, when I started thinking logically about it, why do I think I could please them 100%? That's a lie. That's a lie from perfectionism, and which is a cognitive distortion. So work on quitting that attempt to please everybody. Secondly, quit fearing change. This last Sunday, we had lunch with a friend of ours who said one of the greatest things that her mentor has taught her over the years is that when she's struggling with something at times, boy, that was a mouthful, wasn't it? When she is struggling with something and it's lasting a while, the mentor will say to her, well, just stop it. Stop it. And I think that's what I want to say to you and me in regards to fearing change. You know, the only thing that never changes is change. In this life, everything changes and is in constant state of changing. I personally have come to the conclusion that the Lord allows that so that you and I have to depend on him, so that, the changes cause us to call upon him and to trust in him. But there's no reason to fear change. I think fearing not changing is what we need to pay attention to, because then things are going to change and we're not going to have too much to say about it. If you say, I'm not going to change, 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 or I fear this, sooner or later, life is going to bring some changes. So go ahead and change. And if the change is not good, then change back or change again. But change is consistent. It's a real thing, and it happens all the time. I know this about myself. I know that in my younger days, I loved change, and especially change that was my idea. And today, I'm pretty reluctant to change a lot too much or too fast because I'm older and I kind of like things the way I like them. But if I'm going to keep growing and I'm going to become more, then I got to change, and I don't need to be afraid of that change. So the third thing to quit is quit living in your past. Sometimes we live in our past because we think the past has in it the best of what we were going to get out of life, or it was the best of times. And then it robs us of enjoying today as potentially the best of times. It robs us of the ability to see that maybe things in the future are even going to be better. But I think more times than not, many of us live in the past with regret. And we regret, and we get to that point of having toxic remorse about the past. And it keeps us from becoming who we can be today and in the future. And you can't go back and change what happened. But you can change today, and you certainly can change tomorrow. But not if you're focused on the past, not if you're trying to drive into the future, but you're looking in the rear view mirror the entire time. You're not going to stay on the road very long by looking in the rear view mirror. Yeah, it's important to glance in the rearview mirror every now and then and remember things that you learned from your past, but it's a whole other thing to live there and live there in some kind of toxic remorse and regret. So quit living in the past. Number 4, quit putting yourself down. Do you know that when God looks at you, he sees who he made you to be? He sees you with all the potential he put into your DNA and created you to be the only one that's like you. You are absolutely an original, and everything he made about you that's original, he loves. And so in him, there's no reason to put yourself down, because you and I can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. And part of that is to not put down you, because you're putting down his creation. You're putting down who God made you to be. Now, does that mean that we all don't have some things to shed and change about ourselves? Of course, but that's part of the process of becoming. I had a friend for years that she just irritated the heck out of me. Every time she'd screw up and do something, I wanted her to groan on and on about how horrible it was. I mean, it really was. She would just ask for forgiveness, and then she'd say, I'm going to learn from it. And then she'd move on. And I just couldn't imagine. Shame, shame, shame on her. She moves through this. So, well, I finally learned, no, she's doing it the right way. I'm the one who's got it wrong. She didn't put herself down and be groaning and go into deep mourning for months about how stupid she was. She just said, I'll learn from it, and she moved on. And you know what? Learning from our mistakes is the best we can do, and it doesn't do any good to feel shame about it or feel, some kind of guilt about it, but instead to say, I'm going to attempt not making that mistake again, or whatever. I don't have to put myself down. I can believe in myself. I can be realistic about myself. Confidence, many times, is shaken to the core when we have mental health issues or experience a lot of trauma or drama or very deep difficulties in life. It shakes us to the core, and many times that confidence is gone, and so we find ourselves just putting ourselves down, when in fact we need to recognize who God made us to be and celebrate that. Fifthly, and the last one, quit overthinking. Oh, this is a tough one for me. In fact, there's a podcast on overcoming overthinking that is available. And if it's not out yet, it will be. And the reality is many times we just get frozen with the inability to make a decision because we're overthinking. But what if this? But I can't do that. And if this, that would be terrible. And but this could happen, but I don't know. See, that's all overthinking. There's a time to think through something, but then when we start repeating and there's nothing new we're thinking through, we're starting to overthink. So stop it. Quit it. I don't know about you, but these are 5 things I always have to work on. So if you will with me today to commit to saying, I'm going to quit trying to please everybody. I'm going to quit fearing change. I'm going to quit living in the past. I'm going to quit putting myself down. And I'm going to quit overthinking. Well, I hope this quit list, things to quit list, is helpful to you, my friend. As I said, this would be a short and sweet one again. As you and I think about quitting these things, I'd love to hear from you. And you can email me comments, questions, insights. Maybe you've got 5 more things that we could add to our things to quit list. We'd love to hear from you. Pastor Brad at freshhope.us is the email address. Pastor Brad at freshhope.us. I answer them myself, and it may take me a little bit of time to get it answered, but I always try to answer every single email. If you want to connect with us through social media, we're on all the typical places, as well as would you mind doing me a favor? If you're listening to this podcast through iTunes, be sure and write a truthful, honest evaluation or leave comments about this particular edition of Fresh Hope for Mental Health, and that'll help others find our podcast on iTunes also. We have books, we have groups, we have resources. Much of what we offer is free, and you can check it out at freshhope.us. Look in the store or look around on the website freshhope.us. Please be sure and tell your friends about this program. Now, my friend, until the next time, may the Lord fill you with His hope, fresh and new daily. I'm Brad Hoefs, and this has been another edition of Fresh Hope for Mental Health.
You've been listening to Fresh Hope for Mental Health. If you have an opportunity, please review, share, and subscribe to the Fresh Hope for Mental Health podcast on iTunes or on the service that you use. We encourage you to share our podcast on social media with your friends and family. Previous podcasts of Fresh Hope for Mental Health can be found at freshhopeformentalhealth.com, iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio, and iTunes. Fresh Hope is one of the leading networks of faith-based peer support groups internationally. For more information about Fresh Hope, go to freshhope.us.